Hello friends, and welcome to the season 25, I know I sound incredulous every single time, Treaty United Building a Nation recap for the save over on Twitch, which of course is live right now. We're doing transfer window stuff, all the normal goodies, except this time around we actually have a very good batch of players to look at, and I think we might be able to pick up some serious gems, because things have started happening in South America, where it seems that Argentinian and Brazilian players all of a sudden want to actually talk to us. If you do enjoy these videos, of course, drop a like, lets me know you want me to keep doing them, and of course, the VODs are over on the second channel if you want to watch the streams in their entirety, all the mad shit that I can't possibly put on this channel. So yeah, drop link in the description, you know the good stuff. Before we get into the youth intake situation with this one, I wanted to quickly run through a couple of other things, because there were some questions in the comments last time about things like stadiums that have changed and affiliate clubs, and unfortunately there isn't really much to say. We've had a new stadium, which you obviously know, the Dara Galvin Memorial, but other than that there's been no other stadium changes in Ireland at all. Our average attendance is around about 20,000. We're hoping to build a new stadium at some point, but I have asked the board more recently and they've still been basically saying no. As for affiliate sides, it's been a similar story. We did at one point get ourselves up to 5 of those really cool affiliates that let youth players from other clubs come through, but sadly we did get a few of those players. They weren't any good, obviously, because our youth intakes have been notoriously awful, but sadly our board have now got to the point where they keep cancelling youth affiliates, and they won't let me install any more affiliate sides. So we're down to 2 affiliate sides, only one of which is one of those, and that's Starbeck, and we also have Bray in the second tier, but unfortunately our board will not let me have any more affiliate clubs. They just say we have too many, even after they've just cancelled it. I mean, we could have 0 when they say it was too many. It's utterly stupid that we're not allowed any, and yeah. But now, youth intake. This was the best player from the youth intake this year, Gary Carson. We were hoping for a better youth intake. It was supposed to be a 4-star youth intake this year. We were actually surprised. It still turned out to be a half-star youth intake, because it always freaking is. So Gary Carson was the best player in this year's youth intake. He's a target forward that can't jump. He can head a ball. He has no composure. That's Gary Carson. Not much more I can really build you up on that one. But the reason we need to move on is because there's quite a lot of players to talk about. First, outs. A bit less this time, though, on the outs. Denise Stoylovich has moved to Bohemian for £300,000. That's just basically add-ons. I took out the main fee, so they didn't actually pay us that much for him, if I recall. But yeah, nice to see him get a move to Bose. Ishak Benkoyeda also moved to Bohemian as a permanent goalkeeper, so not bad for them as well. The biggest out was Randy Hobbs. We kind of come to the conclusion that he was never going to get any more loan moves within Ireland, and nobody really wanted to buy him within Ireland, unfortunately. So as a result, Dundee United came in and they gave us £12 million, which I thought was reasonable. No extra clause, I don't think, on the end. It might do, actually. We haven't seen it yet. But needless to say, I think he's a good piece of business. We didn't pay that much for him, so to get him out, how much did we actually pay for Randy? It wasn't a lot, was it? It was 400 grand. So you can sort of see my point there. But yeah, once he came back from Dundalk, he didn't really enjoy his time here. And so to move him on for that kind of money, those are the kind of deals we have to do to start making sure we stay within FFP, which is one of the reasons that we're probably going to see some outs during the next season quite big, because our FFP, again, has swung back because reasons. Even though we're making profit every year, it's just one of those things. Only other out was Danilo Arias, one of the young Uruguayans we brought in. Chelsea bought him off of us for £900,000. I think it was around about the same. Yeah, so we made like 100 grand profit, but also we have a 50% of next sale fee clause, which should probably net us like another 3 million quid. So it's nice to have that happen. He was a bit of a weapon anyway. Now for the ins, there's a lot of these, so we're just going to rush through a lot of these sort of smaller players. Juan de Oliveira, solid Trecatista type player, 300 grand from Plaza Colonia. He's out on loan at St. Pat's. Ernest Bell came in from Fovo Club, the German. He again is out on loan at St. Pat's. You notice a lot of these guys have loans now. Of course, there was Danilo Arias, who only just came in at that point as well, 700 grand. You already know about him though. Andrei Vujovic, who came in for £500,000 from Dinamo Zagreb. Decent player. I think I'm hoping to be able to get him a loan. Ilyan Pantev came in from Cherno Moravama. Of course, he cost £37,000. We love a cheap Bulgarian. Then there was Amir Ali, the Egyptian youngster from Aluminium. We've been calling him Aluminium Ali because of course you would at that point. He's actually played a few games for us this season across some different competitions, to be fair to him. Still would like a loan though. But look at the value on him. We played 27 grand. Then there is Harold Denich Schlecht, a striker from, we basically signed him because his name is Harold. That's really it. We spent £5 million because a man's name is Harold. The meme budget was somewhat expanded, you might say, during that season. Then we dropped £1 million on Adam Sileski. Not a bad striker, honestly. Good tentpole attributes. Again, another guy out on loan at St. Pat's. Then, honestly, a relatively huge outlay. Luigi Ricci cost us £8 million from Feyenoord, but we just really like what we were seeing about him. 6'6", huge jumping reach. He, to me, is an absolute monster for the future, and he's on loan at Derry City as well. Then Mattias Gonzalez, £475,000 from Liverpool FC over in Uruguay, again, out on loan to St. Pat's. Then Daniel Antonio, see what I mean? Starting to find the Brazilians again, from Palmeiras for, I think, £7 million. He has now got a loan, you can't see it here, but he has now gone on loan to Sligo for the following season, which I think is going to be fantastic for them, particularly as for some reason they sent back their top scorer, who was on loan from us last season, and refused to take him back again, this guy called Luis Mesa. I don't know why they did that, but they've got an even better striker now. I'll say better. He's actually not. Then we have Liam Neesens, who came in from Club Brugge for £900,000. And yes, that is his actual name. That is not a nickname. We love it. He is going to be a monster. He's not got a single attribute below a 7. Below a 7. It's utterly insane. But yeah, he's out on loan at Cork City for 900 grand to pick up a player of this quality. Love these kind of signings. Speaking of ridiculous signings, this is Aaron Scholl, worth nearly £30 million. He's on loan at Shamrock Rovers. We picked him up from RB Leipzig for free. He was released by Leipzig and we picked him up for free and he's worth nearly £30 million. What are they doing in Germany? Then there's Maxime Fernandez, 650 grand from Standard Liège. We're hoping to get him a loan. He's also a bit of a bell end. 155 grand for Luka Tolic. He's gone out on loan to Athlone Town, came in from Frosinone of all places. Uroš Savkovic came in from Radnitsky, 45 grand, out on loan at Cork City. Claudio Radu, £600,000, a bit much. We overspent on him, honestly, but he has gone out on loan to Longford. Finally, a player has gone to Longford Town on loan. Then it was Lubos Kokoschka's chance to come in from Slavia Prague for £600,000. He's out on loan at Waterford. Then Martin Sulak came in from Donetsk Streda. I've had some loans. He's turned down a few loans, unfortunately. We had agreed him loans to St. Pat's twice and he rejected them because he's a muppet. Then it was Thiago Milan, £3.7 million from Boca. We've been able to get access to much better South American talent now. As of the start of the year, for some reason, or as of like the middle of the way through the last season, we've suddenly got access to way better players. But he was one of the first ones that we were like, oh, okay, maybe. But there's some much better ones coming in, hopefully soon. £2 million here for Simeon Ristov, a very expensive Bulgarian, you might say, from Ludogorets, actually. And to be fair, you're not wrong. He is quite expensive. Then £2.2 million for Sondre Grinda, coming from Mulder, which is nice. Again, out on loan at St. Pat's. Really like him as an attacking mid. And then a player that I'm slightly unsure of, but I still think he's got good quality for the future. Eryan Forsgren came from Bodø for £6.5 million. It's a lot of money, but I felt like just one that's this good at this age. Great reflexes, good area reach, good handling. A lot of things I like about him. Low eccentricity. Other than the first touch, I think he's got really good setup, and I'd love to get him out on loan somewhere. But yeah, he is not the final. There's one other transfer we made. It's the biggest transfer we've ever made in the entire save. By a mile. This is him. This is Angelo Trabujovic. We've been calling him Turbo Civic because, of course, we have to. Look at the state of him. He's 19 years old, has 10 caps for Croatia already, but we bought him off Manchester City. We were looking at players and we were like, you know what, we want to splash some cash around. And we found a guy who actually would meet the homegrown requirements as well as being a bit of a splash casher type of player because we wanted to strengthen that central midfield. And so we ended up dumping, in total, £53 million on Trabujovic. But bear in mind, that's not all up front. It's only, I think, 20 of it is actually up front. The rest is over the next 7 years. So we're going to be paying for him for a while. But when you see a guy of this kind of quality, he feels like a generational talent. And to have him in our midfield, alongside Thijs Fries and Ali Limburg, has been an absolute dream. With Miggy Ramos coming through in that midfield as well, it looks set for the future. He's only 19 and he's already our starting midfielder. You can see from his statistics as well, you sort of can. In 27 starts, he's got 8 goals and 31 assists for us this season. He has been utterly unplayable. Really enjoyed him. If he gets those physicals up a little bit, his mental attributes are wise beyond his years. He is astonishingly good, and technically he's fantastic as well. So it may well have cost us an awful lot of money, but I still think this guy is probably going to be one of the best players in the game in 2 or 3 seasons, and he'll only be 22 then. So getting him in early before he's worth 200 million, honestly. So that concludes our transfer business, and it's a lot of players in, you'll notice. Next year is going to be even weirder because there's a lot of new guys joining us that could be of very high quality. Weirdly, it's been a plum year for new talent. There's been a lot of players coming around that, once fully scouted, are still maintaining their 5-star potential, which is very rare when you've got a squad as deep and as good as ours is. So I expect next year, I'm going to sit here going, wonder kid, because we found so many good players, which you're going to get to see in next year's video. We haven't actually signed any of them up yet, but I hope that we can do. It certainly seems like that, and we've already got a few deals agreed as well, particularly South Americans. Brazil and Argentina suddenly just became available to us. They all want to talk to us now. Chile as well. It's really odd, but it's going to give us a huge opportunity to bring in some quality talent. African players still have the same problem, though. They just won't talk to us, and when they do, they demand things that are utterly mental. Like, there'll be an average player that would be like I don't know, be like the 80th best player in our squad, and they want like star player and want to be all about 50 grand a week. It's very bizarre. Then they'll go and sign for Porto on £500 a week. But that's enough complaining about that. Let's have a look at how the league has been going. To the surprise of nobody, we won the league very comfortably. 101 points, still managed to lose a game. I think it might have actually been our first game of the season. We didn't start off that well. Got absolutely cracking after that. And you'll notice, of course, there is 7 European spots. So that could give you some spoilers as to what happened sort of last season, but we'll get to that in a minute. Look at the state of this league. There's only one position in this league now that doesn't either get relegated in some form, be it the playoffs or whatever, or plays in Europe next year. And St. Pat's were the lucky winners of that award this year, which is utterly nuts. So yeah, we're in the Champions League, obviously, as champions. Dundalk and Sligo and Shamrock Rovers, pretty much my preferred three, will join us in the Champions League group stages, guaranteed next year, which the money that's going to bring in is mad. Bows and Derry City will go to the Europa League, and Cork City will be in the Europa Conference League. Now, you can see from the goal differences here that Bows and Derry are pretty solid in the middle of the pack. Cork City need to get their act together. They need to be closing that gap towards those sides a little bit. And I think with the money they'll get from Europe and us hopefully trying to get some more loans to them, but they just refuse to take our loans. They're one of the few sides that just don't take our loans very often. Maybe they will now they're in Europe. Who knows? But yeah, you can also see in the scorers as well. Valev with 26, Christensen with 24, Trabujovic with 17 assists, Bogdanov with 16 assists as well, 17 clean sheets for Mikulic. You'll have a look at the scorers in a bit, and it's been a hell of a year for scoring goals and also for assisters. Some bad news for other players, but more on that in a bit. Up from the second tier, it's pretty much standard story. Bray Wanderers won the playoffs, so they did actually come up along with Drogheda. So Cabinteely were unable to go back-to-back, as it was. Longford, of course, relegated, but they're making steps. I think it's not going to be long before Longford are able to stay up, and then once they do, they'll be able to invest that moon money they've got from their tycoon to really go places. Now that they're starting to take our loans, I can feel it. It might just take us a long time. Oops, hit the microphone. But it can be done. I'm certain of it. So that's all the sort of admin that you don't care. And we won all the cups. You know the standard story. Europe. What happened to us in Europe last year to allow that league system to look the way that it did? Well, let's get cracking. We were drawn away against a relatively weak PSG managed by Paul Pogba, who is just not up for the task of being a manager, let alone at PSG. The man got sacked from Hearts before that, so I don't know how he got the job. They did still take the lead, but luckily Christensen and Valev's goals bailed us out and gave us a 2-1 win at the Parc des Princes, which we then parlayed into a very, very comfortable 3-1 victory at home. They actually played better in the away leg for them, but luckily Stefan Valev, with a hat-trick in this game of just brilliance for us, gave us the victory 5-2 through to the next round, and we got Dortmund, and Dortmund are not that good. But as is often the case with us in the Champions League, it didn't matter because we still got mugged off by them. Plaschenreich, Marinov and then Leo Lytle gave Dortmund a 3-1 victory in this game where we absolutely battered them for the majority of it. Araujo's goal was the only goal we were able to score, but I was just head in hands at this point to lose 3-1 here. And they had a red card in this match too, which was after 22 minutes. They had a red card and somehow we just could not score. It was infuriating, but we always seem to have games like this in Europe and it just... nothing you can do about it. They just miss chances. Thankfully, the hero was named Stefan Valev. Second leg, 3-0 treaty, another hat-trick for Stefan Valev. He'd scored 6 goals in his last 2 home matches in the Champions League, and it was enough to see us sneak through the tie 4-3. Like, we should have won this tie by miles, but to get through to the semis again, we suddenly felt ourselves being really confident about this. We were drawing against Barcelona in the semis. It was probably... the best draw would have been Benfica, but we felt like we had a really good chance at getting all the way through there. And Barcelona, we know they'd beaten us last year, but they were so bad and just got very lucky against us. We thought this is the year that we get to another final and really smash it. So naturally, it all went terribly wrong. We were 2-0 up in this game after just 21 minutes, absolutely dominating Barcelona, and then something just changed. Paulo got a goal out of nothing for them. Herman Santos found an equaliser, and then we gave away a penalty in the 92nd minute to lose 3-2 here. We just cannot seem to get a result against Barca that is like... oh, it was so infuriating. But luckily we had the home leg to come, which of course went exactly as you would have expected us to. We smashed them off the park and we lost in extra time. Thijs gave us the equaliser on the tie before half-time. We smashed them on the night. Couldn't score, just like against Dortmund. And then they got a goal through Jesus Riveros with 3 minutes left in extra time to knock us out of the Champions League for the second season in a row. And both of these ties, they've been the worst side and somehow managed to beat us. And it's been infuriating because the problem with the Champions League is we just can't seem to go without a game where we just smash a team and don't score. Whereas, basically, what we put it down to, well, not put it down to, the way we've sort of analysed it is, it feels like we have far too many of those games where we play like that, whereas our opponents in the Champions League very rarely do. We very rarely have games where we're lucky to win in the Champions League. It's usually we're unlucky to lose, and that's just a situation where hopefully it will eventually even itself out, but it's probably been about 7 years. The last game I remember being really lucky in was a PSG game a few seasons ago where we got smashed at the Parc des Princes and managed to win 1-0 with a Paulo Vinicius goal. That should tell you how long ago it was because Paulo Vinicius was still here, but we just have to do better. So Christensen has been preferred now mostly to Araujo because he's just been scoring more. didn't apply to this particular game, but for the most part, he has improved a lot. But what about the other Irish sides? So Sligo and Bohs were through. They managed to beat Galatasaray and Sparta Prague respectively. In fact, very comfortably were Bohs able to sneak through to the second round. It was at this point that Shamrock Rovers entered the fray. Unfortunately, they went out on penalties to Villarreal. Luckily, Sligo went through on penalties against Hearts, which was good news for us, and Bohs were able to knock out Montpellier by 3-2, through to the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, Sligo were unable to beat Villarreal. They lost 4-3 on aggregate. Very, very close, but Bohs were able to get past PSV Eindhoven by 4-1 and make it to the Conference League semis, where they would face Bodø. And in a real shameful turn of events, they lost to them 3-1 on aggregate, particularly as they knocked Bodø out in the qualifiers to get into the Europa League earlier this season. So real shame that they went out at this stage, because they could have been in the final against Feyenoord of all people. And the final, of course, was eventually won by Feyenoord by 4-1. That could have been Bohs. But as a result of that, we did go up to third in the coefficient chart, which was really sick. In addition, of course, that's a year delayed. We'd already gone up to fifth by this point, so it meant that we had 6 sides in Europe, which is what we had for the season that we're sort of currently in the middle of right now, which meant that we, because of some weird bye system, got 3 guaranteed group stage spots, oddly, 2 guaranteed Europa League, and then 1 in the playoff round for the Conference League, which was Derry City. They had Maccabi Tel Aviv, slapped them. They were all in the group stages, so 6 teams in the groups. Our group was Athletic Club, Liverpool, and Red Bull Salzburg. And this is what happened. Incredible. Our first ever 100% group. 18 points on the board. Liverpool didn't qualify out of this group, which was mad to me, honestly. We put 3 past Liverpool at Anfield, and then the run just kept going. 2-1 victory there over Athletic Club. 5-0 victory away at Red Bull Salzburg with 4 for Peter Christensen. Just demolition. 6-0 at home with Valev getting a hat-trick. We then beat Liverpool 2-0 in that game and finished things off with a cheeky little 2-0 away at Athletic to go 6 for 6. And as a result of drawing that, we did get Porto in the knockout round, which for me is not that bad. It could have been so much better, though, when you look at the other groups. We could have had Rangers. We could have had... Oh, there was someone else as well. There were so many teams. Dundee United. As for Dundalk, well, incredibly, they qualified out of their Champions League group. For the second time in this save, Dundalk have made it to the knockouts. And it didn't even start that well for them, honestly. A defeat away against Milan was fairly poor for them, but then they beat Besiktas 3-0, but it was really this game that changed everything. They won 4-1 at the Bernabeu against Real Madrid, with late goals from Stephenson and Vujovic. Hanush got a pair as well. Mental. That right there was the turning point. After that, obviously losing at home to them was unfortunate, but they beat Milan 2-0, and then were smashing Besiktas 3-0 to sneak through, not even sneak through, to smash their way through to the next round of the Champions League, and they got Juventus. Arguably the best draw they could have possibly got for group winners was Juventus. That's a team that I think they're actually capable of beating over 2 legs. So I think there's a chance that Dundalk could go further. Unfortunately for Sligo, who are our final competitor in the Champions League, they did manage to get a win and 4 points, but it was not quite enough in the end to do anything more than go out, sadly. Mainly the reason for it was, where was it? There was a game here. So basically, towards the end, Sligo were 1-1 with Chelsea. Chelsea scored in the 90th minute to deny Sligo that extra point, and Hibs also equalised in the 90th minute with 10 men. If those things hadn't happened, or even one of them hadn't happened, Sligo would have got 3rd place and gone into the knockouts of the Europa League. But just one of those things that happened. So we're going to be missing Sligo for the knockouts after Christmas, but damn, they did bloody well, and think of the money they're going to get. As for the Europa League, honestly, it did not go all that well. Bohs got quite an easy group with Fenerbahce, Standard Liège and Maribor, and unfortunately were unable to qualify out of it for anything. They drew on the final day 1-1 at home to Maribor after a late goal. And if they'd won that game, they'd have got 3rd, qualified for the knockouts of the Conference League. It would have all been good. But as a result of ballsing that up, they don't qualify for anything. So we're going to be really lacking Irish sides in the knockouts after Christmas. And then in a way that's almost kind of worse, honestly, Shamrock Rovers got out of their group, but that means they're going to be in the knockouts of the Europa League and not the Conference League. So they might not last that long there either, but they did at least get out of their group and show a bit of fortitude, unlike Bohemian. And lastly, in the Conference League, Derry City's first real foray into this, to be fair to them. They did get a win, which was ironically a 4-1 thrashing of group winners Ajax. But it wasn't enough. They just kept dropping points in awkward positions when they should have been winning matches, and it just wasn't enough for them. They kept losing games that they should have been drawing games they should have been winning, or in this case, one draw. I think they were better than Karabag and Icor, but they just weren't quite good enough in this one, and as a result, you'll see that it is only us, Dundalk, and Shamrock going through to the knockouts, and more importantly, that's 2 in the knockouts of the Champions League, and 1 in the knockout of the Europa League. Shamrock got, who was it? It was Dynamo Kiev, so they've actually got a pretty plum draw, but I still think it's going to be tough for them to progress much more than they already have. So in terms of coefficients, we obviously set a nice little pace last season to enable ourselves to grab 3rd spot, which is what we will have next year, which is why we've got the 7 teams in Europe. Nice little 4-point gap. Still a huge gap back to Spain because we end up with 17.9. This year, though, currently on 10.1. It's not bad. It's 5th best of all the teams in Europe, but we still need to be slightly better than that. Not that far behind Spain, though, and I think it's just been a bit of a dud year in certain areas for us. We could certainly go a little bit better. But in terms of next year, we're still going to be hanging on to third spot, although France are certainly looking pretty tasty as well. The clubs behind us are certainly coming along there, but if we can just stabilise for a few seasons, and it really is going to be a case of stabilise, because with the extra teams in Europe, they're in weird positions, and they're going to have less chances to make up points. So it is going to take a few years of the money coming in, the reputation boost for them to sign more players. We had the same thing happen in Norway. We just need to stabilise and try to stay in the top 4 for the next 3 or 4 seasons and hope that then they can then start to really build and take us to the next level. But it will take some time. As long as we stay top 4 for the next 3 or 4 years, I think we'll be able to do that. We just have to stay top 4 after this year disappears and start putting down some big numbers. And I think there's definitely a chance that we could catch Spain. England still are on a different planet. Maybe it's possible if something miracle happens, but I think Spain are genuinely doable in this save if we keep pushing. We've still got plenty of time left in FN22, and I think it can definitely be done. So one final look at some player stats for us this year. You can see towards the very top of goal scoring, I mean, what a year it is. Christensen, 59 goals from 3,000 minutes, whereas Norberto Araujo, 22 goals from, I mean, obviously he's played more minutes, but Christensen's just been better. If we get a big squad bump in value, I'd be tempted to sell Nobby Araujo for like £90 million if we can do, trying to off-sweat some of that FFP stuff, maybe, should the right bids come in for him potentially, because we do have other players that can come in as well, which is exciting. But Valev as well was 56 goals. At one point he was miles away the top scorer, but he failed a little bit in the second half of the year. He was at like 51 about 4 months ago, so he's kind of trailed off a little bit, but still, they're an absolute menace of a strike force. Bilbia with 22 goals. Really strong coming in from him as a secondary striker to back people up. Valev with 16 assists as well. Freeze only with 18 goals this year, which is really good. Also, Valev won the Ballon d'Or this season, so big up Stefan Valev. Christensen won Under 21 Player of the Year, and we had Christensen, Valev, and of course Thijs Freeze in the Team of the Year for World FIFA Team of the Year, which was pretty sick too. 33 assists for Taburovic as well, 29 for Thijs Freeze, but also 20 there for Radojcic. But in addition, Bogdanov, 32 assists from right wing back this year. He has become an absolute menace. I mean, you might think, where's Mbaissao and why has he not played so much? So he broke his leg and missed 6 months of the season with that, so sadly. It might have even been more than that. So he's really had a truncated year, and that's why he's only got 7 assists and hasn't played that much. So Bogdanov has stepped into that role and pretty much made it his own. It's genuinely astonishing how good he's been. Radojcic as well, very good. Considering that Niaksu is probably our best left wing back, Radojcic has actually contributed more assists this season and has also got 8 goals to his name. So he's been fantastic. We're looking great in those positions. So many good players coming through at the moment. Neslo's really stepping up. Lukacic, the next range of the next sort of wave of young talent in the team is finally starting to emerge now, with the likes of Lukacic and Neslo being centre-back pairings in this team. Navio is pretty much the old head there, sort of stabilising things. Miggy Ramos is finally starting to make a bit of progress now towards the player that I know he can be. So, and he's still only 20 years old as well. I feel like eventually it's going to be him and Turbo Civic, probably as a midfield partnership, and I'm excited to get to that day. So in terms of transfer budget, it's actually a little bit smaller, but I suspect that we'll be able to make a lot of money because we're going to have to try and sell some people during this window to cover off the FFP hole that we currently find ourselves in, because it's just a menace to society. But that's what we're going to be doing over on stream right now. We've got a huge list of players to look through, and it's a little bit more South American Wonder Kid shopping than we've ever managed to do before. So if you have enjoyed this, and I hope you have, drop a like, that'd be gorgeous. Join me over on stream. I'll tell you what, Rubber Duck. Put Rubber Duck in the comments if you've got this far into the video. Put Rubber Duck in the chat, and I'll definitely be extremely confused because my brain is like a sieve and I will have forgotten. So yeah, if you've enjoyed it, drop a like. New to the channel, subscribe. Stream on Twitch, you know all that. I'll see you guys very soon for some more Treaty United recap. I'm extremely hot. Bye!